Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Lion's Den. This is the Weekly Roar. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the fastest ways we can gain leadership. Do you have an idea what that might be? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to be speaking about it today in the Weekly Roar. But before we get started, I'm Greg Storch. I'm the founder of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching business where I focus on creating winning work cultures one leader at a time. I'm a certified professional leadership coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. Last week, I continued my new leadership series called Leadership Reboot 2020, Start With You. It's a series designed to bring us back to basics by doing a leadership reboot and hopefully helping all of us to take a look at ourselves as leaders first. It all starts with you. Last Wednesday, I spoke about a very special skill that great leaders need to develop: the ability to create positive change. I spoke about what I meant by positive change, why people resist change to begin with, and I also shared a framework with you that can help you to create it. If you missed that episode of the Weekly Roar, then all you have to do is go over to my website at lion-enterprise.com and click on the Lion's Pride Library, where you're going to find all the links to every one of my videos. Last week's video is number 88. The Lion's Pride Library is a free resource to check out, and it's a great way for you to get more of the roar. Okay, let's jump into today's Weekly Roar. I started off today mentioning one of the quickest ways we can gain leadership. We do that by being good problem solvers. That's right. Our ability to solve problems will help us gain leadership quickly. And I'm going to tell you why. We all know life is hard. Life is hard for all of us. And for some people, it's even a little harder. The fact is, we've all got problems. If you don't have any problems, then this is going to be a really boring Weekly Roar for you today. But it's true, right? Life has a way of throwing us curveballs, and they come when we least expect it. Nobody, not even our grand overall designer, promised us that life would be easy. And for leaders, well, that just adds another layer of complexity to the equation, as if life in general weren't difficult enough. Why is life a little more challenging for leaders? Well, if you're a good leader, then you already know that leaders think in terms of others, not just themselves. So there's the added burden of responsibility of not just focusing on ourselves, but focusing on others as well. Leaders don't focus on me, they focus on we. And when good leaders focus on the we, they assume the role of dealing with not only their own problems, but the problems of their followers too. And the problems that float up to the level of leaders aren't the easy ones, right? No, the easy ones are the ones that get handled at the lower levels. But the big problems, those are the ones that people either can't or don't want to deal with, and they get plopped down on the desk of the person at the top. So today, I want to share a positive take on problems that make leadership such a challenge. By the end of the Weekly Roar today, we'll have some information that we can all use to help us step up and gain credibility with our followers in the quickest way possible. Together, we're going to become better problem solvers and develop the ability to see problems as opportunities when others around us only see them as irritating distractions that cause frustration and negativity. A long time ago, I listened to a cassette tape. Yes, a cassette tape. And it was a cassette tape of Zig Ziglar talking. And I'll always remember what he was saying on that tape. I loved it. His attitudes towards normally negative things allowed him to look at the positives instead. I remember him saying, I don't call that thing on the street a stoplight. No, I call that a go light. I'm just waiting on that light to turn green so I can go. And I wake up every day to an opportunity clock. It's not an alarm clock. Why would I want to wake up alarmed? There's nothing to be alarmed about. I love it. The point of sharing that with you is that problems don't have to be problems unless we allow them to be problems. Problems hold potential benefits, and it's those benefits that we're going to talk about today. One of the benefits to dealing with problems is that it can really show us who we are. We get to know ourselves really good when we're dealing with a problem. When I was growing up in the Navy, there was a big emphasis on this new theory called management by wandering around. The idea was that leaders needed to get up from their desks, get out of their offices so they could connect with their people and be closer to what was going on. Man, that was such an awesome lesson to learn for such a young leader. I was probably not even old enough to drink yet when I was already learning this lesson in leadership. Being close to the problem impacts our ability as leaders to make effective decisions. The further removed we are from the problem, the worse our decisions become. The more disconnected you are from your people, the more disconnected you'll be from the problem. No leader wants to be seen as being disconnected and out of touch with their followers. And the only way to avoid that is to stay close to your people. That's why I'm such a huge follower of the art of connecting with others. Leadership takes energy, and so does connecting with others. One of the first things we have to do as leaders is go to where our people are and meet them there. That's when we truly begin to know and understand the real problems, and that will help us make better decisions about them. Speaking about problems, introducing us to ourselves, another thing I've learned as a leader for a few decades is that leaders should be expecting problems, and it's our responsibility to fix them. Leaders are either in the middle of one crisis or moving into the next one, but it's a given that their plates are always going to be full with problems to solve. Trust me on this one. When I was running a federal IT contract in DC worth a few $100 million, there was never a shortage of problems. As a matter of fact, I knew I had to balance the everyday with what had to be accomplished with addressing the problems of the day. I had work to do, yet I had all these problems coming across my plate minute after minute. You know, always having to deal with problems has the potential to suck us into a negative space and keep us there. It happens all the time. Managers get frustrated and they don't want to have to deal with all these problems. But good leaders know it's their responsibility to do just that. One of the things I used to do in order to avoid being pulled into that black hole of negativity was to change my attitude about problems. Not only did it work for that, but it also helped me set the tone across the whole contract for hundreds of people that I was leading. I created this culture where employees weren't afraid to bring a problem to me. And that's what we want as leaders. We do that by connecting with them and gaining their trust. So I developed this tagline or this catchphrase that I always used every time someone would come to me and say, "We have a problem," or "I've got a problem." I instinctively would reply to them, there are no problems, only solutions to problems." I know that sounds corny, but there was a lot of truth to it. I truly believe that focusing on the solution instead of the problem was a great way to stay positive, develop trust with your people, and solve issues as they came. That's the life of a leader. We deal with problems every day. And if you expect anything different, then you're setting unrealistic expectations. So when you're leading, don't be surprised when problems arise. I guess that kind of goes along with another thing I've learned, and that's approaching problems with the belief that there's always an answer, a solution. Good leaders have the mental ability to not only focus on the problem itself, but they also have the mental ability at the same time to look at it in the context of the big picture, the overall scheme of things. I think that's what makes leaders different as problem solvers. Of course, lots of people can solve problems. People do it every day, but they have the benefit of only having to focus solely on the problem and finding a solution. But leaders have to also look at the puzzle from the big picture too. So they've got to focus in two areas. Having a positive outlook towards our ability to find a solution, believing that every problem has one, sets us up to keep working at them. And with every successfully solved problem, the better we become at solving problems. Another thing that problem solving has taught me about myself is the importance of taking responsibility for addressing the problem. I know that depending on the actions I take or fail to take can make my problems better or they can make them worse. Whenever leaders can take responsibility for solving problems and for their attitudes and emotions about the problem, they give themselves the best effort to finding a solution that's best for the team and the organization. It's the best solution for we, not me. Problems, they don't just show us who we are, they can also show us what others are made of too. You can certainly learn a lot about yourself by how you handle adversity, but the same holds true about others. The way other people handle adversity can tell us a lot about their character. As leaders, we've got to understand that the response to problems of other people can and will impact the chemistry of your teams, the teams you're leading, and the outcomes of their efforts. There are some people who can make a problem worse by the way they react to it. It's all about the choices we make on how we're going to look at and react to the problem. Problems can be like a fire, and the way we react to that problem can be the same as either throwing gas on it or throwing water. Good leaders have this awareness and they observe their team members on how they react to those problems. So there are people who just make problems worse, and there are others who just attract problems. I always say where your focus goes, your energy flows. That applies to problems too. Some people are just a problem magnet. And what's worse is that those who tend to focus on problems also tend to attract others just like them. Who we are is who we attract. You know, the ironic thing about it is that These are the people who usually become the problem you have to solve. Those who see nothing but problems in life get nothing but problems. And the same is true for possibilities. It's all about the choices we make. Leaders can help those who focus on problems more than possibilities. But the people that they're trying to help have to want to change their thinking. And sometimes it's really hard to do. As leaders, we need to pay close attention to how our people respond to problems and, where needed, to help them respond correctly. That takes time because we have to spend time observing how those people are responding to problems, and then we have to spend more time helping them respond in a positive way. We can't solve their problems for them because once we start doing that, guess what? It just never ends. Good leaders will solve their problems with them, not for them, just until they can get the hang of doing it themselves. If small problems keep getting brought to us, then we start creating our own problem by not helping them to become better problem solvers themselves. Problems can introduce us to what others are made of too, not just ourselves. There are those who can make problems worse, those who attract problems after problems, and people who give up too easily on problems. There's even people who see problems as stepping stones to something better instead of roadblocks that are keeping them from obtaining it. So there's all kinds of people out there that deal with problems differently. Keep your eye out for these types of people and learn how to interact with them when it comes to a problem solving. Be careful not to make more problems by taking over. Some people need help shifting their mindset about problems, and we can help them do that, but there are some who can't make that shift. Know how you can help and try to develop other good problem solvers, and that will help you to build your leadership quickly. Remember, there aren't any problems, only solutions to problems. One of my favorite Albert Einstein quotes is, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." And that brings me to my last point. We talked about how problems can introduce us to ourselves and to others, but problems can also introduce us to opportunities. Now, I'm going to be the first one to admit that it isn't an easy mindset to develop. I have to work at it all the time. I mean, nobody likes problems, but unfortunately, we all have them and they're just a fact of life. How we react to them is a choice we make, just like any other adversity we face. I'm sure you guys have heard this before. We choose to be bitter or better, victim or victor. Well, I'd add problem or opportunity. If you aren't quite there yet, like me, here are a few things we can do to help us begin to look at problems through the lens of opportunity. Okay, so the first thing is to get ahead of the problem if you can. If you're a leader, the one thing you want to avoid is getting blindsided. Blindsided is finding out about a problem you didn't know was a problem after it became a problem. See the problem? Good leaders anticipate problems by looking for signs that can indicate that problems might lie ahead. That allows them to position themselves and their teams for success. Having a plan in place for anticipated problems can help you best address them when they do happen. So think into it a little and ask yourself, what do you see coming your way, and what is your plan to fix that problem? The next thing is to make sure you clearly understand the problem. The best way to do that is, first of all, avoid assumptions. I think you all have heard what the word assume means. When we assume, we make an ass out of you and me. The other thing we need to do is identify the reality of the situation. Doing these two things will help you solve problems better. We can't solve problems and make progress without having a clear picture of what's really going on and then taking the right actions moving forward. Good leaders ask great questions. Why? Because it helps them with making better decisions. And the same holds true with problems. When we're trying to solve problems, we have to ask questions. Asking questions will tick off almost every mark we need in order to solve a problem. It helps us understand what people are thinking and feeling, and it helps us to gather more information. Some of the best questions that we can ask as leaders when trying to solve a problem are, who knows the most about this? Another good question to ask is, what do you know that I need to know? What am I missing here? Who there on the team might want to tackle this problem? And another one is, what do I need to be asking myself as the leader? Those are some questions that might allow you to gain more insight into the problem. It'll help you avoid making assumptions, enlist the help of others who are more informed and experienced, and it'll also allow you to tap into your own personal problem-solving experience by reflecting on the questions and the answers you're asking and telling yourself. The next thing is, don't work in a bubble. The best problem solvers work with others. So it's important to embrace the ability to ask for help. You've heard the saying that two heads are better than one. Well, that's especially true when it comes to solving problems. The key is being able to enlist the help of others to problem solve. And the way you do that is to create an environment where others feel that they can share their ideas and opinions. Without it, you won't be able to do shared problem solving very well, if at all. When I was running that IT contract, these IT people were famous for working in silos. Every team wanted to just solve their own problems. The network administrators, the system administrators, the tier 1 support, the desktop support folks, all of them had their little fiefdoms, all their little silos, and their problems were their problems. But once I worked to break down those silos, we were able to all join in and solve problems together. And it worked great because we found out that my problem was also your problem. And part of the solution was going to come from another team. Staying in a silo prevented that. You know what? I got to remind you, never let your ego make you feel that you have to have the answers as the leader and that you can't ask for help when it comes to problem solving. Really good leaders know that they can, they know they should, and they do it. Okay, another thing you can do is to remember that there is always more than one way to skin a cat. Sorry, cat lovers, it's just a saying to make my point. But another way for us to see problems through the lens of opportunity is to develop more than one solution to the problem. And a great way to do that is brainstorming. Brainstorming is a great tool for this. It helps get people to free think and come up with ideas that may not have been suggested without a brainstorming event. Get several solutions to the problem written down. The more options, the better, because it's always good to have a plan B and C and sometimes D. Problems can change and shift on us, and when we have multiple solutions, it can help us be flexible in our response to problems and gives us the best chances of success. Okay, this next one might seem a little obvious, but it can be overlooked quite frequently. And this is the same with people who set goals sometimes. And what I'm talking about is taking action. So the next thing you have to do is take the necessary action. Sometimes people can spend too much time on problem solving and not enough time on implementing the solution. The only way to really solve a problem is to not only confront it, but to act on it too. The action step is one of the most often overlooked steps in goal setting and the reason why people never reach their goals. At the end of the day, we can't wish our way through problems. We have to work through them. The last thing I want to mention that may help you is to look for lessons and opportunities in every problem. You know, John Maxwell wrote a book about this very thing called Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. And it had a profound impact on the way I viewed adversity and challenges in my own life. No matter how bad your circumstances might be, there is most likely a solution for the problem and the potential to improve your life and your leadership. Leaders see opportunities differently than others. They give us the chance to learn about ourselves and others. It helps us not only improve our lives, but the lives of others and to gain influence. And that's why problem solving is the fastest way to gain leadership. I want to leave you with this. If you want to get better and grow as a problem solver, then here's 3 questions that you can ask. The first one is, what does the way I currently handle problems say about me? That's a great question to ask because problems shape your attitude. Do you see problems as opportunities or inconveniences? The second question is, how can I use others as problem solvers? This is where you need to get good at asking questions to learn more about your team members. Brainstorm ideas and identify multiple solutions to the problem. And the third and last question is, what opportunities can I see in the problem I'm facing? When you develop the ability to find opportunities in problems that move you and your organization forward, you've become a leader who can create change. Okay, everyone, that does it for today. Thanks for joining me again. I'm going to be back here next week speaking about more ways to reboot your leadership in 2020. That's right. Next week, I'm coming back to talk about that little extra plus in leadership. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's attitude. Leadership has less to do with position than it does disposition. Next week, I'll speak about how a good attitude can go a long way when it comes to our leadership. Our attitude as leaders influences the thoughts and feelings of those we lead. See, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. I hope you're going to join me. All right, friends, until we meet again next Wednesday, remember, be powerful, but stay poised just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.